The Circuit de la Sarthe has become one of the classic courses in use around the world and arguably one of the most popular, thanks to in large part to the 24 Hours of Le Mans endurance race, which has seen it become world famous. Each June, the eyes of the world fall on this 8-mile ribbon of tarmac as one of the great sporting spectacles unfolds, pitting man and machine against the rigors of day and night against the rigors of day and night racing. Nothing else in racing comes even close to matching it. Today, Le Mans is in fact 3 courses: the famed 24-hour course, which incorporates large sections of public road, and the smaller purpose-built Bugatti circuit, which entertains the crowds for the rest of the year. The third Maison Blanche course was added in the 1970s as a school and track day facility, and now is home to a Porsche Experience Center. We are here at the virtual version of this legendary circuit for the 10th and final race of Season 2 of the Cross Touring Cup from Le Mans. And Tom real fat, and my name is Alex Andersen. I've been joined in the commentary booth by Tom Dillon with Adam Thompson in our virtual production truck. And Tom, if you're here, why don't you take us through our starting grid?
Morning, Alex. As Eduardo Pecorini starts in pole position with Banik up in second. It's Kerry Cantera in third with Corey Venicht in fourth. Ray Lombardi starts fifth with Bobby Ross in sixth in the number 33. Then it's Bruce Jackson, Chad Seat, Jesse Singleton, Devin Bracture, Joshua Benjamin and Lucas Finco rounding out the top 12. As for the GT4 field, Randall McGrew is on pole position with Eric Ronenberg starting in second. Jack Lee is a lone GT3 runner out there in 15th. Jason Gotter in 16th. And it's Robert Schwenkler in 17th. Dustin Arliss in 18th. Paul Mikolajczyk in 19th with Grant Turner in 20th. James Keir, Sir Rob Neville, Joey DiPiero and Jimmy Howard round out the field.
And it's a pretty large starting grid for the final race of the season. The league owner Robert Schwenkler did a lot of recruiting so that way we could fill up the grid and have a very exciting race from Le Mans. What isn't there to like about this circuit? I mean, it has super exciting legendary corners, and especially the legendary Mulsanne straight. And Tom, the runs down that straight, I mean, it's just, I would assume maybe 3 to 4 miles of just straight line racing. It's going to be absolutely electric.
It's my favourite racetrack in the world, Le Mans. I think it's absolutely incredibly special, and GT3 cars don't race here in the real world. They're not too far off the GTE cars, of course, but it's still very, very interesting to watch them bomb around this circuit, particularly those Porsche curves. That's going to be interesting when we get later on into the race and we start to see the guys going around there. That's going to be particularly interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be just such a fun race, and it's the final race of the season, but also the second time we have an hour-and-a-half long race of the season, so there's going to be a lot more strategy, a lot more pit stops. Drivers are going to have to really just get those pits perfect so that way they can just get themselves better. It's going to be a very competitive field for the next hour and a half.
Yes, exactly, and I want to keep an eye on Edgar Sanchez to see if he can run away from the field early on. It's one of those circuits where slipstream is king, particularly as you mentioned down the Mulsanne straight. As did I say something else? I meant to say Eduardo Pecorini. My apologies.
You did say Edgar Sanchez.
As I always get those two confused for some reason. I do mean Eduardo Pecorini. I apologise, but yes, it's going to be interesting to see Eduardo Pecorini trying to run away. I swear they both run yellow cars. Alex will be my excuse here, I think.
I do think you're right about that. I'm not going to lie. They probably do both run yellow cars, so I'm not going to blame you for getting that mixed up. And just what a season that has been for Eduardo Pecorini. He's won basically every race, and it's just absolutely insane season for that driver. And you got to wonder, what can he do for Season 3? I mean, he's already secured the championship. Same thing for GT4. Robert Schwenkler's already locked up the championship in GT4. And just, you got to wonder, what's the next season going to look like for both classes?
Well, I think there's going to be quite a few changes in the league as well, which are going to be exciting, particularly for Eduardo himself, perhaps trying to consolidate on that. But here we go then, for the race starts as they head through the Ford chicane. Safety car goes into the pit lane, and it gives Edoardo Pecorini control of the field for the 1 hour and a half. It is going to be Edoardo Pecorini leading us away, and it's a slightly controversial start as he sort of cut up the Porsche down into that final corner, but leads us away into turn 1 by 5/10 of a second. It's a hard braking zone down into here. There's a little bit of a move, I think, there from the number 411, who's actually round. There was Bobby Ross, I think, trying to have a little bit of a look, or Kerry Cantera, and it sent Bannick Opp all the way around. As for the GT4 field, Randall McGrew leads in the Aston Martin through into turn 1. It's an Aston Martin top 3 through there. No real moves being made up in this field so early on. A BMW goes very, very deep into the first corner. The Dunlop chicane, very Aston Martin dominated that field, but everyone clean mostly through the start. Of course, the only real incident being with that 460 car, the 411 Porsche, I should say, down into the Mulsanne chicane. The first one, then the Daytona chicane. It's going to be 333. Kerry Cantera looking to make a move on the Porsche, using all of the draft he can. Balls to the inside again. You want to be looking at about the 150 mark in the GT3s. Brake late. See if you can just about pull alongside, and he can just about get his nose ahead. I think there, Kerry Cantera makes the move into second position.
Yeah, it's been a solid season for him as well, just trying to end it off on a high note. And real quick, something we probably should have mentioned before the race started. The drivers, which numbers are in the 400 ranges. So, like Randall McGrew with the 444 or Eric Ronenberg with the 417 in both classes, those are guest drivers, so they are not counting for points. Everybody else, however, is. Every other driver is counting for points, but the drivers who have 3-digit numbers that start with 4, those are all guest drivers who do not count for points at this race.
Right on board with Dustin Arliss. It's always interesting to see from the GT4 switching to Jason Gotter how much slower they are compared to other cars around this circuit. It's always really interesting to see. And look at this, Jason Gotter listens at the lift and coast through the second Mulsanne chicane. He's obviously looking to play the long game in this race and try and stretch that fuel stint as long as he can, and it works because he's got that slipstream of Randall McGrew, and he's going to be able to allow Randall to punch that hole into the air throughout the majority of this first stint, and I suspect attack a little bit later on. It's not the same in the GT3 category, as we see Bobby Ross certainly keen to make a move on that number 12 Martini Porsche. Can't find a way through at the moment, but he's going to try it at Indianapolis. This isn't really a corner they're going to be able to make a move. Edoardo Pecorini's involved as well. He's actually really slow for some reason. He's on the brakes for whatever reason, down into 4th. He's got a slowdown penalty apparently, but around the outside goes Bobby Ross into Indianapolis, as it's looking like Ross just about able to get into second position ahead of Kerry Cantera. But the more pressing news is there's a contact, and actually it looks like it's going to be Bobby Ross who goes sailing on through into the Arnage corner, just about survives. But the important news is that Edoardo Pecorini looks to get back around into third position on Kerry Cantera. He's going to have to go into the Porsche curves for this one. It looks like it is Benedict into the lead of this race, but here's Edoardo Pecorini down the inside into the Porsche curves, late on the brakes, but not late enough. That Mercedes with the power around the outside, able to hold on to the position.
Yeah, that's not something you really see every day. Edoardo Pecorini making a mistake. Usually he's a very clean driver, 0 mistakes, super clean driving, and he just ends up pulling away from the field. But an uncharacteristically like mistake, and it allows Corey Vervink to take the lead, and Bobby Ross is going to try and chase him down through the Corvette and towards the Dunlop curve now as they come to start lap 2.
So I want to keep an eye as well on the fact that Finker has unfortunately been the first retirement from the race, showing us out on our screen. Again, we're not totally trusting of that information, but theoretically speaking, that's what that graphic means. As we head on through for lap 2 then. The good thing about Le Mans is there's a huge dive from Kerry Cantera on Bobby Ross, just about able to get his nose there, and looks for a switchback now out of the Dunlop chicane. Edoardo Pecorini is also involved. It looks like at the moment Bobby Ross is holding on to that position. It was a great dive from Kerry Cantera in the 333, wasn't it?
Most certainly. It was a really bold move, and he did a really nice job at making that move, holding onto that spot, and just very aggressive driving early on from a lot of these drivers. But it's been a lot of successful moves here. Here we have a replay of Jason Gotta.
Straight off the Porsche curves. I've done that a few times in my sim racing adventures, and just have to recollect. It's actually quite difficult because it's a very fast rejoin. We've seen some bad crashes there, and actually it looks like Jason Gotter may have taken tow service back to the pits. I want to say, and he's now displaying us out of the race, so perhaps something going on with his hardware there as Piero gets past James Keir. They're having a bit of a scrap. We go back to this scrap at hand here with Edoardo Pecorini. Kerry Cantero serves a slowdown penalty and has to let Edoardo Pecorini through. So now Pecorini has that lead in sight, looking to attack Bobby Ross perhaps at any opportunity he can.
Yeah, I think the main thing with this track and the way this race is going to go, just a minor prediction, is that, I mean, a leader in each class could pull out like maybe a 2nd or 2-second gap, but as soon as they get to the Mulsanne straight, or the run between the Mulsanne corner and Indianapolis, I think that's where everybody's just going to come right back together. Using that large slipstream down how long the Mulsanne straight is, it's going to just pull all of these cars right back on top of each other. And that looks to be what's happening right now as Corey Vervinkt headed down the Mulsanne straight from Tertre Rouge with about a 1.6 second lead. Now as these drivers head through Mulsanne, it's under a second.
Absolutely. You see that 402 car just about able to hold position. That's Joshua Benjamin in there. Robert Schwenkler has got the lead of the GT4 class, but it's going to be Randall McGrew trying to get back at him around the outside of the second Mulsanne chicane. They're still side by side. That guest driver, of course, Randall McGrew, taking pole position in the Aston Martin, but now it is the champion who's going to try and get the race win in the final race of the season to round off what has been a pretty superb one as they go down into the Mulsanne corner. This is so slow. They're going to need to use the ABS that these GT4 cars have got. It looks like McGrew on the inside is just going to hold on to that position, but it's so close as it looks like Robert Schwenkler as well just onto the gravel for a moment there. This one is going to be a move that's decided somehow in Indianapolis.
Yeah, Schwenkler got the switchback there off the Mulsanne. Ended up back out in front of Randall McGrew, but Randall still has that run as they make the run down towards Indianapolis. Looks like Randall is going to defect off for now, probably wait for the Indianapolis corner to make another dive at him, but it looks like just still hanging out, staying single file for now is Robert Schwenkler leading the race for the first time tonight after an outsider came and took pole right away from him.
Oh, it's regular programming resuming, isn't it, for Robert Schwenkler? Is back into the lead of the race. This time it's Randall McGrew, his main rival, rather than Paul Mikolajczyk. More moves in the GT3 field. That is a desperate dive bomb, and it works from the Porsche. Making that mistake earlier on in that number 4, 1 into the gravel on the exit to the 4 chicanes, but you do not typically make a move into the 4 chicanes, how fast they are as a corner.
Yeah, most certainly. You just want to stay single file through there, try not to make any contact with some drivers as the rest of the field heads through the Dunlop chicane. At the moment, Edoardo Pecorini's got himself back up into second place. Now can he'll make a move down the Mulsanne straight if he can't make it before then. We know how fast Edoardo Pecorini is. Before Bannock took it from him, Edoardo did have the fastest lap, so now as they head towards the Mulsanne straight once again, I bet Edoardo Pecorini is going to look to take the lead back once more.
Absolutely, it's a huge slide from the Porsche through the S's. Edoardo Pecorini now going to have a real go at the number 12, 155 mile an hour as he gets up to 6th gear, goes to 170 probably as he gets to the end of the straight. This time the slipstream helping him in abundance. Edoardo Pecorini in that BMW able to go to the inside. There's going to be Bobby Ross getting himself involved as well. Uses Pecorini to try and nick the slipstream. Down the inside goes Edoardo Pecorini and gets the position before the corner really starts. There will be perhaps something to say from that Porsche as they head down into the second chicane, but right now it looks like this is Edoardo Pecorini's position for the taking.
Corey Vervinkt is going down the slipstream as they head towards the second chicane, so I would reckon if Corey can get close enough, he might.
It sounds like we've lost Alex as we see Corey Vervinkt trying to go back down the inside of Edoardo Pecorini, but look at how far out to the right-hand side that Edoardo Pecorini was heading into the second Mulsanne chicane. He was so far out there, taking the esports line, as it were. But Corey Vernink is going to still give it a go. He's going to still hang in there and try and get this move back ahead of the race leader and the champion, of course. Vernink in that number 12 car as we welcome Adam Thompson to the booth temporarily.
Hello.
Adam.
Hey, how's it going? Oh, sounds like Alex is back. I can go ahead and back out of here again. Just wanted to, real quick,
right.
While I was in here, we got Randall McGrew that was able to make a move back around Rob Schwenkler. I'm telling you what, these straights, like you were talking about, are going to be, I think this is going to be nip and tuck, but at what point do you have to start worrying about maybe fuel, maybe trying to stay in the draft, you know, because fuel is going to be a big deal here. You can only get about 4 laps in these GT4s.
Yeah, pit window won't be too far away. It looks like Howard is into the pits for an early pit stop, probably an incident that we didn't quite pick up. But welcome back to the booth, Alex. You missed the best bit. You missed the move for the lead in the GT3 class. But maybe there'll be a move for the lead in the GT4 class that can sort of substitute for it.
There was like a really rare bird outside of the commentary booth. I had to go see what it was, but we're back now, and I do apologize for that. And you know, it's still been a pretty clean race so far from all these drivers. They're probably just at this point probably looking to try and save some fuel, try and get some more laps down, or try and just take some more laps off on this, since that way they don't have to pit at all later.
Yes, and well, I don't think Robert Schwenkler's quite got the memo. Is he's gaining and gaining on Randall McGrew all the time. You don't have the nature of it being a 24-hour race here, so we can see audacious moves through Indianapolis, and it looks like we're going to see just that from Robert Schwenkler down the inside into Indianapolis. They're rubbing wheels through there, and it is going to be Schwenkler who sneaks his way through, but McGrew isn't done just yet, stays alongside, but Schwenkler in the end with that inside line just able to carry the more momentum through the corner and gets the lead of the race once more.
Yeah, they've been pretty much going at it the entire race so far, and I reckon that's how it's going to be if they stay together through the pit cycles. Both of these drivers are so very fast. Robert Schwenkler, a past champion in this series. Then you have Randall McGrew, a champion in other series, owner of the SBO Network's American Muscle Series. Definitely knows how to wheel a car around a road course, so I would reckon these two are going to be breathing down each other's necks all race long.
Something's happened to the 411 car, as Op looks like he's fallen down the order, down into 7th position, and now has a 2.4 second gap back to the car ahead of him. Here is what happened to the guest driver in the Porsche down into the Dunlop curve. That is a really late move. He almost made it work, but in the end, I think Bobby Ross there was just a little bit too much for him, and now that Porsche with a little bit of damage on the driver's left door. But Robert Schwenkler still in the lead of the race. Randall McGrew is going to try and come back at him at some point. These two pretty inseparable. I think at this stage a move is starting to essentially be part of their rhythm.
Yeah, and one thing to note about damage on this track is because of how...
Slow down for Schwenkler.
Oh, yeah, slow down for Schwenkler there.
To 4th. So Schwenkler actually got a slowdown penalty. He must have cut into the Ford chicanes or something, and now that is going to be a very interesting permutation. It means that all of a sudden he's on the comeback trail throughout the rest of this race, and it allows Jack Lee here as another guest entry to try and chase down this Aston Martin in the lead of the race.
Yeah, and one thing to note about the damage on cars at this track is that because of how long the straights are here and how many full throttle sections there are on this track, even if you scrape the wall a little bit and just get ever so slight fender damage, you might want to come in and either take a fast repair or take the optional to fix that. Because of how long the straights are here, even just a little nick of aerodynamic damage can slow you down a lot over the course of an hour and a half race. It can take entire seconds off your race.
Exactly. They do have 2 fast repairs, so it wouldn't be too absurd to come into the pits and get it changed at the earliest possible opportunity. But Edoardo Pecorini leads the race once more by 5 seconds now. Almost no more slowdown penalties for him. It's Kerry Cantera in second. You can see here just a little bit of a battle between the 12 car and the 33. It's Bobby Ross and Jackson getting involved in this. As we go on, Bobby Ross perhaps thinking about to move down into Indianapolis. This is starting to become a little bit of more of an overtaking opportunity than we thought. The Porsche just cuts him up, though. All fair in that particular circumstance, as I think Bobby was probably a little bit optimistic anyway going around the outside into Indianapolis. But still has to stay behind as we switch back to the battle for the lead in GT4 category. The absence of Robert Schwenkler has allowed Eric Ronenberg to catch back up to this field in that podium position. I don't think he'll be too comfortable with holding on to this with that charging Schwenkler behind. However, right now he's got a real opportunity, hasn't he, to get back ahead. Hey
guys, it's me again. So, what do you think these top three drivers, knowing that Robert Schwenkler is quick, as we do see a move here, Jack Lee looking like he's going to try to make a move here on Randall McGrew, going into the right-hander. Is he going to be able to get it done? He does it. But with these drivers, these top three, do you think that they're going to work together? And I think I already know the answer to this as we're watching this overtake. Or do you think they're going to try to keep battling? Because Robert Schwenkler right now doesn't have the slipstream, but he's going to be able to get back to it pretty quick if these guys keep battling like this.
Well, as Randall McGrew goes back to the inside, down into Indianapolis, Kerry Cantera into the pit lane for his first stop of the afternoon. Down the inside goes Randall McGrew, and I think he's got that position back before the corner even starts. Eric Ronenberg in the Aston Martin trying to do something as well, can't quite do it, and it looks like Randall McGrew gets back to the lead of the race. So I don't think there's much working together here. I think it's absolutely full out battle. But one thing I am picking up about iRacing and this version of Le Mans is you head down into Indianapolis, they're not actually using that sort of abrasive AstroTurf on the left hand side down into Indianapolis. In other sims you can use that quite aggressively to try and widen your entry to the corner. It allows you to carry that little bit more speed through there. They're having to be much more conservative on this particular sim, which I think is very interesting here as well. Look at on the left hand side, not using that one either into the Porsche curves. So I find it interesting as this came up with Randall actually yesterday in the WSRL endurance race, as we were talking about how different sims require different driving styles. I think that's a particularly interesting thing about iRacing's driving style.
Yeah, with iRacing's driving style, I mean, the cars are a lot more touchy. You got to know a lot more of what you're doing to drive a car fast on this service. You have to know every little hint of speed, and like you mentioned, Tom, you can't do things like try and widen a quarter on entry without getting some sort of corresponding penalty for it. So it requires a lot more of a different finesse, a different sense for speed. But it looks like that so far all these drivers taking it in quite well. Everybody's using as much track as they can, but not as much track to the point where they would maybe get an off track and risk a penalty. Everybody just going clean and green for the moment.
Absolutely. Here's Bobby Ross looking to try and find a way through once more on a second place car. This is again a battle that's been going on pretty much all race long for the last 18 minutes. Lap 5 of this race. Won't be too long before we start to see the pit stops starting to be a factor. It's 40% fuel, so if you're going for an hour, as Bobby Ross to the inside, very late indeed. This is down into Mulsanne corner, isn't it? And he's not quite able to find a way through there. The Porsche is a little bit slow on the exit, might allow Bobby Ross to have a little bit of a look in down the next straight. One of the cones goes flying in the top of your picture as we see a battle with that Guess Porsche again in the top of your picture. But right now Bobby Ross trying to get around for the lead of the second place, I should say, sorry, in the GT3 field. Something's happened to Dustin Arnis, I think.
I believe this is heading to the Porsche curves, and goes a little bit wide there and just tags the wall. It doesn't look like a lot of damage done to that McLaren, but probably is going to affect the handling a little bit. Not something you want to do at all. Looks like side by side for third is Corey Vervinkt and Jackson now as they head through, I believe, the corner after Indianapolis. And it looks like, they're still side by side now as Jackson trying to make this move to get around Corey Vervinkt side by side as they head towards the Porsche curves as Bruce Jackson tries to make this move. One of these drivers is going to have to give, because if you mess up one of these curves, it's going to mess up every single curve after that. Neither driver gives, though, as they head into the Porsche curves. They make contact. Both of them are around. Bruce Jackson saves it, but Corey Vervinkt is into the gravel. He's got it back onto the track, but that is going to absolutely kill their lap. Here's a replay of it. It looked like just not enough room given between either driver. Great save from both of them, though, to not hit anything.
Yeah, well, that just seemed a little bit needless, didn't it, as they headed through the Porsche curves. No need to be this aggressive this early into the race. There is Bobby Ross into the pits, as I think Eduardo Pecorini is a taker for the pit stops as well. So the GT3s are starting to jump into the pit lane. All of them, actually, by the looks of things, as they go one by one into pit lane. The GT4 battle is still raging on as they snake on through. It's Jackson Lee, or Jack Lee I should say, in the lead of the race right now. Randall McGrew just behind him, and Eric Ronenberg trying to get involved as well. And in fact, it's going to be Ronenberg who has the best chance at getting past Randall. Here he goes to the outside, can't quite pull alongside. They're just neck and neck at the moment as they run down into Indianapolis. Randall McGrew does invite himself alongside, gets down the inside, perhaps on the McLaren. The McLaren just with the extra speed around the outside, now with the inside. But now Randall McGrew is going to have a chance, and the inside for the Arnage corner, which he's going to use absolutely superbly indeed and get ahead before the braking zone. As for the GT3 field, there are now a few changes for position actually as they exit out of the pit lane. This is an absolute carnage through there, as you can see, everyone just trying to shuffle along and shuffle through. But at the moment, it's Eduardo Pecorini who actually extends his lead to 10 seconds. Bobby Ross, I think they're actually lost out to Kerry Cantera for second position.
Yeah, so that's just going to give us even more battles. Now we're going to have Joshua Benjamin versus Bruce Jackson, Bobby Ross versus Kerry Cantera now as well. Meanwhile, we still have the ever so alluring race for the GT3 lead as Randall McGrew took that move back using the outside of Indianapolis, as Jack Lee and Eric Ronenberg still follow him along as they head through the Porsche and Corvette curves now. And you gotta wonder, I thought I heard somebody mention that the GT4 cars can only go about 4 laps on fuel. So when are they gonna have to pit? That's my question right now. All right, well, it looks like we called it. It's this lap. So they head through the pit chicane now, just trying to keep it nice and tidy. Robert Schwenkler heads in there as well. And so probably just like this time with all the GT3 cars pitting, maybe all the GT4 cars in as well. Dustin Allison, the 488 McLaren, is into the pit lane. Now, next car that will have a shot is Paul Mikolajczyk driving the number 01. It looks like he will be a taker as well. Then, yeah, everybody just cruising along to their pit stalls. Probably just going to take a full fuel. Maybe not tires this time. Maybe next time. But it looks like... Oh, no, somebody missed their pit stall. That was Jack Lee, I believe. Missed his pit stall by a mile there. Had to throw it in reverse. Had to throw in reverse and get back.
Yeah, he's onto the jacks. He's taking tyres, look, in that McLaren. So he's going to try and have an absolute mega stint, isn't he, to try and get into the lead of the race. But I think the key here is the pit stops will slightly open up that gap in the lead of the race. As you can see, they're out much before the McLaren that had that issue with the pit stop. But that's going to give Randall McGrew perhaps a second, and that might just give him the win of this race, depending on what Jack Lee can do, who now is going to try and attack Robert Schwenkler straight out of the pit lane. Can't cross the white line, can go down the inside into the Dunlop chicane, won't do so. He stays behind sensibly, but I'm sure that because he was onto the jacks, he must be on new tyres.
Most certainly, and that's going to give him a lot of extra grip, so he could use that extra grip to close up that gap. And actually, something happened to Kerry Cantera. I saw Bobby Ross make a move on him earlier, and now Kerry is currently sitting in 6th place in the GT3 classes. Joshua Benjamin and Bruce Jackson side by side as they head towards Indianapolis. The Ferrari is going to get it for now, but I do want to see if we can find a replay of what happened between Bobby Ross and... Oh no, that's a car around as well there. Here's what happened to Kerry Cantera. This was through the Mulsanne corner. It looked like he just got sideways through the Mulsanne corner through that angle. Here it is again as they head... Oh, it looked like a bit of a blink. Maybe that was a Wi-Fi issue. Kerry blinked, and then that Porsche behind him of Bannock Op ended up tapping him because of that. Couldn't see where he was, but now Corey Vervinkt and Brandon Jackson going for it. And actually, when we just cut away from Kerry Cantera's incident, there was another car that spun. I think it may have been Joshua Benjamin.
Potentially, we're going to find out. As Benjamin was down the inside into Indianapolis, just about holds on to the car. Nothing really showing signs of being wrong there, and it just goes around on him, and he's done well to hold the brakes and avoid going into anyone. That being said, that wasn't
That's
the
a pretty
safest of
unsafe rejoin.
in the world. I don't think it's anything worth a penalty, but it's definitely not the safest. And, well, yellow flag's there for a reason, but we'll be hoping to check his relative a little bit better next time as Kerry Cantera is into pit lane. So this will be using one of his fast repairs, obviously struggling. Look at how he's holding the steering wheel slightly bent as he heads into pit lane. So one of the 2 fast repairs available to him, definitely used here, and that's going to upset his race as well. Eduardo Pecorini, by the way, is absolutely checked out in this race. 15 seconds he now leads. So unless a mistake comes from him, which we haven't seen all season long, really, it's going to be his day. Bobby Ross, though, despite getting a gap out of the pit lane into second position, has now got up just behind him, trying to get into second himself. This is a repeat of what we saw on lap 1, if you remember that far back.
Yeah, is Bobby Ross not out of the woods just yet? He's got Danica chasing him now. Oh no! That was out of the Mulsanne corner. It looked like, and that looked like he just got clear with that rejoin, but I'm not even sure what happened to him. It looked like he was running all by his lonesome. Maybe could have been exactly what happened to Joshua Benjamin, where the rears just slid out on him. He's racing with Jack Lee right here, breaks into the Mulsanne corner. And it looks like pretty much basically what happened to Joshua Benjamin there, gets sideways, but this time Jack Lee was in the way. Hard contact between the 2 McLarens, and you can see how that McLaren is limping down the straight on the run to Indianapolis. That's going to be a fast repair for sure.
Yeah, Schwenkler actually spun about 2 times there. He couldn't get the car back in the right direction, and that will frustrate him no less than it frustrates Jack Lee, who now is going to have to use one of his fast repairs. Here's another angle of it as they headed down into the Mulsanne corner. I think it was just the curb. The car must have bottomed out or something. He went a little bit wide, got greedy on the throttle perhaps, and then Jack Lee helped him round, obviously innocently. Nothing Jack Lee really could have done, and then it gets completely worse as Robert Schwenkler tries to get back round, and then, oh no, the car is actually not as nice as he thought it was. Robert, he just goes round and in once more into the barrier, almost takes out the Dogecoin McLaren, and just able to recollect. That's just Dustin Arliss that is probably feeling a little bit lucky now, and then Schwenkler trying to reverse straight into the wall once more. That won't help the damage. They're just about able to avoid taking out the rest of this field, as we see actually that's a GT3 runner getting through the GT4s. So a few people catching up. Edgar Zanginelli, by the way, catching up to the back of the GT4 field in just a moment. So I'm Eduardo Pecorini. I apologise. Now that's stuck in my head. I'm going to do that all night, and that's frustrating. But anyway, Eduardo Pecorini looking like he's going to catch up to the back of the GT4 field soon enough.
Yeah, it looked like Bandit Op made the move around Bobby Ross, probably down the Mulsanne Straight sometime. And meanwhile, there's going to be a battle soon in the GT4 class as well, as Paul Mikulajczyk catching up to Grant Turner. But here's the move. Bandit Op made it into one of the chicanes, it looked like. Just beat him onto the brakes. Bobby Ross let him have the position there, just trying not to go side by side through chicane, but not maybe what Bobby Ross might have wanted to do there. Is Bandit Cop really showing some muscle now and really starting to pull away, but here's Paul Mikulajczyk starting to draw ever so closer to Grant Turner now. It hasn't been the most eventful race for Paul. It hasn't been the greatest race, but looking to make up some spots here.
Absolutely, as Randall McGrew is in the lead of the race once more, but Terry Ronenberg is just about catching up to him. 1.2 seconds that gap. It's not close enough for Slipstream to really be a factor just yet, as it looks like Jackson's had a little bit of an issue. Here is what happened to Bruce Jackson, as I think he's just gone straight into the wall.
Yeah, it looked like through the Porsche curves there, just got wide, hit the gravel, and when he went to go turn it back towards the track, just on the loose surface, the car slid, shot him straight into the Armco guardrail. But it looks like these two heading into the second chicane now. We'll have to see if Eric Ronenberg can get a good run out of this corner to maybe have a nice draft run on the run down to Indianapolis. Now he just has to keep this gap under a second now to get a nice slipstream. He's getting one right now, in fact. Is that gap starting to lower now? It might get below 0.8 before they get to the Mulsanne corner. We'll have to see, but Eric Ronenberg now back in this fight, and the race for the GT4 lead is back on once more.
Absolutely is just gaining enough to be able to get back up into Randall's slipstream, which is really, really good from his perspective, as Randall now is going to be under all the pressure in the world, and he looks to be struggling as well in that 444 McLaren. Ronenberg is going to fancy his chances at the race win here, especially Robert Schwenkler, championship winner, of course, practically out of this race. He's still going and he's got a fast repair and all of that, but he is practically out of the race in terms of contention for the win. So these two, with a 26-second gap to Arliss, will feel like this is the battle, and it's going to be Eric Ronenberg who fancies his chances, particularly with the superior pace he's got over Randall McGrew so far in this second stint, as just onto the gravel for a moment, won't be able to make the move. Presumably this lap, the Porsche curves isn't really an overtaking opportunity, so just going to have to bide his time and wait for it.
Yes, Bobby Ross is also starting to draw closer on the car in front of him. He's starting to get closer to Bannock Op now, as these drivers are heading to the second Mulsanne chicane now. Bobby Ross with that Mercedes trying to catch up to the Porsche, as it looked like Bannock Op got a really good run through that chicane. Bobby lost a little bit of time there, but this slipstream is just going to be carrying him down these straights, as Eric Ronenberg now right on the back bumper of Randall McGrew through the Corvette curves and down toward the Ford chicanes to start lap number 9 for themselves. And Eric Ronenberg still riding along. Like you said, Tom, there's no real overtaking opportunities back here. It's just everybody riding in line, just trying to stay close together and trying to minimize mistakes.
I do want to cut in here real quick and let you know that Randall McGrew and Eric Ronenberg are both part of another series that we broadcast in the name of AMS, the American Muscle Series. And it's pretty cool to see these two drivers coming in and running GT4s and doing just as well as they do in the Mustangs.
I'm not sure
well, I would reckon
the voice wobble as they went through the 4 chicanes. He did get a little bit loose, didn't he, Eric Ronenberg? But both of them hopping the curb a little bit hard.
And the one thing that I think might be with Eric Ronenberg and Randall McGrew being so good in these GT4 cars is they do have a lot of differences. The Mustangs, those FR500S Mustangs, are manual. These cars are sequential. And these cars have ABS, if I'm not mistaken. Those Mustangs do not. A lot of differences, but also the main principle remains. Big, heavy, hefty cars with not a lot of downforce that are able to go pretty freaking fast. And that's basically what the GT4 cars are. That's basically what the Mustang FR500s are. So not a lot of similarities, but still the biggest similarity is in common between them. So those two cars very close to each other, and I would reckon the skill that it takes to drive one of those Mustangs at a very high speed is carrying over into these GT4 cars, and almost 170 miles an hour. That's not something I'd expect from one of these cars as they head into the Daytona chicane, and very impressive the amount of power these cars can put out.
Yeah, absolutely. Is Ronenberg still having a real opportunity here? And I think, again, this might be the time when, as Adam was mentioning a little bit earlier on, where they have to start to think about formation flying almost, and just waiting to attack a little bit later on. We've still got an hour left in this race, mind you. That is a significant amount of time in order to pull something off here. So he doesn't have to really run through it. He can bide his time. He can relax and wait for it to really come off. But right now, it looks like Randall McGrew is looking comfortable enough in the lead of the race.
Yeah, and actually, Bobby Ross tried to make a dive to get around Bannock Op in the previous couple of corners, but he wasn't able to pull it off. I saw them switching places a couple of times on the ticker, but Bobby Ross still going to have to settle for third, as here we have a replay of it. They went side by side down the front straight into the Dunlop curve and then towards the Dunlop chicane. Bobby Ross had a nice run off the outside here, but it looks like just wasn't able to make up enough room into the Dunlop chicane. Ends up having to still settle for third, and well, look at that, now he's in second. So I would assume that move was just made on the Mulsanne straight. Here's a replay of it as they easily goes to the inside using the slipstream, and it looks like Bannock lets him have that position, not wanting to go side by side into the chicane. Smart driving from them, but as now we're back to the battle of the GT4 classes, these drivers are still breathing down each other's necks side by side in one of the Mulsanne chicanes, or excuse me, that was in the Mulsanne corner. That's not something you see very often now. As Bobby Ross, did get around Bannock up there, and it looks like Bannock is still just going to settle for third, maybe try and use a run towards the Mulsanne corner to maybe take that spot back.
GT4 traffic as well starting to be a little bit of a factor. There's James Gear in the 88 just getting involved in that battle between Bobby Ross and Op. Still formation flying those two, as are Ronenberg and McGrew for the moment, as McGrew not able to find his way back through on this lap. So I think this battle between these two is there. Onto the gravel goes the Porsche. I think it's just got to be about being a little bit bold at whatever opportunity he chooses to attack here. Planning up as right now, I think Bobby Ross again is looking pretty comfortable, and there isn't much of a way through that. Mercedes is very fast down the straights, of course. The Porsche isn't particularly slow. Mercedes will definitely feel that he's got the confidence.
And another opportunity that these drivers could pick to be bold could be in the pit lane is actually a dive bomb move to the inside through Indianapolis. Bannock up goes, and Bobby Ross gets into the gravel a little bit. Bannock easily able to go through because of it. And as I was mentioning, I mean, another opportunity these drivers could pick to go bold would it be during the pit cycles, because there are going to be several more throughout this race, maybe 2 or 3 more throughout the rest of this race, as we are almost halfway through these pit cycles. I mean, you can make up a lot of time using them, and that could be the way somebody like maybe Dustin Ollis or Corey Vervinkt is thinking right now to try and catch up to the cars in front.
Ronenberg then leads the way and is pulling out a little bit of a gap to Randall McGrew. Maybe getting past was just the opportunity he needed now to open the floodgates and try and extend that lead as much as he can. I think Ronenberg now, out of all of the camps to be in, it would probably be his that I choose to, as they go through Tetra Rouge now, using all of the curb on the left-hand side. I'm surprised no one's getting track cuts through there. It's a really difficult corner to get right. But Ronenberg now with 9/10 of a second of a gap. He's almost out of the slipstream as Op is through on Bobby Ross once more into the pit lane. Second pit stops starting to appear for the GT3s.
As the GT4 cars might not have to pit till lap 12 or 13, as it looks like Jack Lee is caught up to Jerry DiPiero now, according to the ticker on the left. So Jack Lee is going to be in a race with Jerry DiPiero for 6th, but there is still a GT4 lead battle going on between Eric Ronenberg and Randall McGrew. And how long has this battle been going on for? These two drivers have been racing forever. They've all shown pretty much the same exact. They've shown pretty much the same exact pace. They've been just so quick through the Circuit de la Sarthe, and it's been really fun to watch these two fight it out.
Yeah, it has. There's more takers of the pit stops. Kerry Cantera in for the GT3 field, but I still think here, once he's able to break the slipstream here, then Eric Ronenberg will fly away through into the race as well, through the second Mulsanne chicane. I say he's going to break through. In fact, it looks like he's made a little bit of a mistake. Here is Bannock Op trying to get around Chad Seep. I believe this is straight out of the pits for Bannock Op. Either that or something pretty dramatic has happened to him. But he's through and into that 6th position, no doubt waiting for Bobby Ross to come into the pits and hoping for a little bit of an undercut here.
Yeah, that was definitely a move made through the pit lane as Bannock Op had just pitted that time by, was able to get around Chad Seep by the time they got to the Dunlop chicane. But I reckon Chad Seep might have another go at it here. Yet there he goes to the inside in that Mercedes. It looks like he thinks the better of it for now as they head towards the first Mulsanne chicane. As it looks like, yeah, Chad Seep realizes Bannock is faster, not going to try and challenge him too much through there, as Bannock is now going to have to start his charge through the field, waiting for the other drivers to come into the...
Here he goes, trying to get around the GT4 traffic as well. That's not as easy for him as he would have expected. That's Rob Neville, I think, in the 87. Actually, it's given him a little bit of time on Chad Seep. We're hoping to not battle as much as possible here, because when you're coming into the pit stops and you've got someone who's not really in the same race as you, in air quotes, then it can be a little bit frustrating to see them starting to try. And the way you see it, getting involved in your business, of course, he's allowed to be there, is Bannock Op, but that's not the point. There is a very hurt Ferrari. What on earth has happened to that car?
I am honestly not exactly sure, but you see how much the wing is bent on the rear end, and just a lot more and that car. It almost looks like the variable. Forget what car it's on, but the car that has the wing that moves depending on which way you're turning, and that's pretty much what the Ferrari's doing right now. It's got that wing slanted all the way to the left, and I reckon that's really hurting the downforce. But it looks like the GT4 battle for the lead might start to have a stalemate for now, as Eric Ronenberg losing a little bit of time. But if Eric Ronenberg can just keep it clean through the Ford chicanes, get a nice run towards the Mulsanne straight, he'll be able to use that draft, get that gap closed right back up. But so far, Eric Ronenberg, as he has to actually let that Ferrari by, just lost a lot of time there.
Well, I love Ferrari doing his best impression of a brisker stock car over here in the UK. Is really bent with that wing and a little bit confusing. It's Jesse Singleton. I think all you need to know about this car is that he's struggling to overtake the GT4s. So make of that what you will. Is obviously he's able to overtake them as Eduardo Pecorini's into the pit lane for his second stop of the afternoon. But I think that's all you need to know, really. That he's not particularly too much faster than the GT4s through that final sector, which is suggesting to me that maybe the downforce on that car, surprise, surprise, isn't too great. It's Ray Lombardi into the pits as well. Maybe that's what the Ferrari's thinking about. Well, I'm close to my pits anyway. I might as well wait so I can take my fast repair, assuming he's still got one left, which he should do at this stage in the race. Let's be honest. So anyway, everyone else into the pits, Bobby Ross as well, and now we're going to keep an eye on Op to see if he can get past on Bobby Ross, because that's the main battle through the pit stop phases.
Yeah, as pretty much the field is going to be drawn closer together now, as Bannock Op is going to have a shot to get around Bobby Ross once more if Bobby can get out of the pits faster, but Bannock is already through by a long shot now, so I think by pitting that much earlier, Bannock was able to take less fuel than Bobby Ross had to do just then, or Bobby could have taken tires, but Bobby is now going to have another car to fight with, and that's going to be Corey Vervinkt, who had a really fast pit stop there and now sits in third for the GT3 class.
He does, and that is probably frustrating to Bobby Ross, though perhaps he's taken tyres. I'm not too sure. Someone who hasn't lost out at all is Eduardo Pecorini, though. Let's keep an eye on that, as Bannock Op took 2 seconds out of him throughout the pit stop phases. There is still time in this race for him to try and catch back up to Eduardo Pecorini, where how possible that is, I'm not too sure, but the point is that there is still time, as Pecorini actually goes straight back to 15.6 seconds into the lead.
Yeah, and I mean, I want to mention the gap that Randall McGrew's pulled out on Eric Ronenberg, because that, I mean, I'm not sure if that was all done because of that Ferrari that Eric Ronenberg had to dive out of the way of, but it looked like Randall McGrew has found a lot of pace recently, because that gap has grown pretty much over a second and a half from what it was at. So, I mean, Eric Ronenberg could be struggling a bit here, but I mean, the GT4 cars are going to have pit stops coming up soon for them, maybe on lap 12 or 13. So I would think that at this point, Eric Ronenberg might have to turn his attention towards that to try and make up some ground on Randall McGrew.
Joshua Benjamin in 6th position, trying to hold off Jackson in 7th. This again is going to be one of those battles of the minor positions that I think is going to go on for quite a long time. They have got Rob Neville as well, just a little bit further ahead of them, trying to go about his business normally, and that's going to give them a little bit of traffic to contend with. The field well and truly spread out now, 45 minutes into a Le Mans race. There's Joshua Benjamin now, perhaps seeing an opportunity to the second Mulsanne chicane, avoid the cone on the right-hand side, but the Ferrari holding firm for the moment. Again, this is going to be one of those things where, depending on where they catch up to Rob Neville, which I think actually is going to be down the straight, so it won't be too much of a factor, but that could have changed how this battle goes. Now the BMW looks to the inside, perhaps down into the Mulsanne corner. He's going to get alongside. Is he going to be able to get ahead, though? That is the crucial question. It's going to be heavy onto the brakes through here, and the BMW able to get ahead. Now has to make sure he's not open to a potential switchback in defence. He's not. That move is made superbly from Benjamin, from Jackson, I should say, up into 6th position as Randall McGrew into the pit. Second pit stops for the GT4s.
Yeah, Eric Ronenberg into the pits as well, and so yeah, like you said, second pit stops are underway for the GT4 class. This is where we have to look for Eric Ronenberg to close this gap. This will be Eric's best shot to close this gap, other than raw pace, which he lost a little bit on the final couple laps of that run, so he'll probably be turning his attention towards this to try and make up some time on Randall. You see a little friendly flash of the headlights as these two head down into the pit lane, and they will come to a stop in their pit stalls, try maybe take some tires, get some fuel into that car. We'll see if either of them get lifted onto the jacks. I couldn't really tell very well, but here's Rob Neville heading through Indianapolis now onto the brakes. It looks like pretty clean through there, but just catches the gravel, and that sends that car straight hurling into the guardrail. And Rob Neville now has a destroyed Porsche. That's probably going to be a fast repair for him if he doesn't get that fixed soon. But Eric Ronenberg with a lightning fast pit stop, and that's going to get him in front of Randall McGrew. So the race, once again for the GT4 class, is still going on.
Yeah, and well, that's a superb pit stop, isn't it? Obviously, Randall McGrew has taken tyres or something, or even more fuel. I'm not too sure what perhaps could be the reason for that, but the point is Eric Ronenberg has gained 2 seconds on him, and all of that work Randall McGrew did in the previous pit stop, in the previous stint I should say, is practically undone. But the question is, if he is on new tyres, now he's going to be even faster on this next stint.
We'll have to find out. As it looks like, I'm not sure whether or not either of these two took tires, so I think maybe Eric underfueled the car just a tad so that we wouldn't have to spend that much time in the pit lane compared to Randall McGrew, who probably filled it up to the max if he could, so that way he could just go for a while now. But this race is still going to be going on for the long game now, as Randall McGrew not even trying to make a move at this point, just trying to ride in line, maybe save a little bit of fuel there, and just try and better himself towards the end of this race, try and finish this race without a destroyed race car.
Hey guys, we have a chat here from the YouTube from Chuckly saying that Randall forgot to take fuel, so I'm wondering if that's why his stop was a little bit longer. Maybe he had checked on fuel as he got into the stop. May have been why it just took a little bit longer for him.
Well, if so, that would be a great frustration for Randall McGrew, as that's not really a way you want to be losing a race, is it? He's still in with a fighting chance here, though, of course. And I'd argue, even with his pace in that last stint, perhaps even the favourite. But as we go to 45 minutes, we're about halfway through this race, just a little bit over. So now it really is into the push stint towards the end now. 2 more pit stops left, I reckon, as we see Paul Mikolajczyk trying to attack Jerry Di Piero for 6th position, as a man who would probably have been hoping to be at the front in this race, unfortunately relegated down into 7th, but is able to get 6th position regardless, and would be a nice roundup for a pretty decent season, finishing 2nd in the championship. That being said, he's not quite ahead just yet. He's going to have to do it on the brakes, which he does absolutely superbly in that number 1 car. And despite giving up his championship to Robert Schwenkler, he at least is going to put on a decent showing here at Le Mans.
Yeah, definitely. As Paul Mikolajczyk, he's had a pretty solid season so far, just hasn't gotten the results he probably deserves. As Robert Schwenkler, your champion of the season right now. Pretty much this race is just an hour-and-a-half long victory lap for him, as he just probably tries to tune that car a little bit to try and get some practice for next season. As Bobby Ross now has pulled away from Corey Vervinck, so he's pulled up to the race for the GT4 lead, so you got to wonder how Bobby's going to handle this, because obviously he wants to get around these cars as fast as possible, but he definitely doesn't want to interfere with this race.
Not, it's always nervy as a GT4 car, isn't it? Just look at this. This is actually going to probably help Eric Ronenberg or Randall McGrew. Certainly not Eric Ronenberg. He'll be frustrated at that, but no one wants to get involved in anyone else's race, and that is just unfortunately one of those things that happens, because Bobby Ross has got to get around there, frankly. But now Randall McGrew may be able, no, he just lifts off the throttle a little bit there, you could see, by losing an extra bit of time. Now on board in the helmet camera, through the Porsche curves to the right, all the way over to the right once more for the left, using a lot more curve is the 417 than Randall himself. And again, look at how smooth he's being on the throttle. Usually through the Porsche curves, you're absolutely on rails. If you look in the real life as well, in LMP2 cars, they're usually at about, I want to say about 90 degrees steering, or 180 I suppose, depending on which way you look at it. But the steering is right over, and they're basically chucking the cars through there, but much more smooth, much more collected in these GT4s at iRacing. was hearing in my ear, we might actually just do a lap on board with Randall.
Yeah, and the thing is, with these GT4 cars, it's over well, no, that's off a pit lane delta, so usually it's about a 4-minute and 20-second lap around that for these drivers, so you're going to get the real Le Mans experience there, even completed with GT3 cars trying to pass, but Eric Ronenberg missed that corner. He's going to have to serve that slowdown now. That's exactly what Randall's going to need here, and he'll get around through the S's, and he'll have a really nice shot down the Mulsanne straight through Tesher Road.
Yeah, absolutely, and well, that's going to allow Randall a lot, actually, as now he's got a 1.3 second gap, so that perhaps does the work that he was after in this stint. But that was caused by that GT3 car poking his nose down there. Had the right to do so, but he just, I think, wasn't expected by Eric Ronenberg, and now he's lost the lead of the race. So it's a mistake piece for these two, and Randall McGrew goes back to the lead of the race. But look at the closing speed of these GT3 cars, oh my word, it's incredible as they get on through. But McGrew just cruising along here, really. There's nothing else quite to say. Down into the first Mulsanne chicane, the Daytona corner, lifting and coasting through there, and then taking so much speed into the first one, then into the second, just a little bit deep, really, from Randall, getting out of the way of another GT3.
Yeah, I'm not sure how he made that corner. I thought he was going to miss it by a mile. So Eric Ronenberg actually now has the gap under a second, so he will be feeling the full effects of the slipstream now. So I would reckon Eric Ronenberg could use the Mulsanne straight and the run from the Mulsanne corner to Indianapolis to close this gap back down. Eric Ronenberg is most certainly not out of this yet.
Picking down into the second corner then. This time it's a little bit, well, the second chicane I should say, this time it's a little bit better than the first one. Opening up the car once more. The thing about GT4 cars is, when you're in the car, obviously they feel quite fast. I'm talking about the real world, of course. But when you look at it from here, they do definitely look like they're having a nice cruise along this Le Mans circuit. Even though Randall is probably right on the edge here, as he again slightly lifts into Mulsanne, goes almost deep, and just gets that turned in. It's incredible. I have no clue how he's able to get it turned in, braking so late. Obviously, these cars have got ABS, so you don't really have to worry about, braking and locking up and going straight on into the barrier, but still, the confidence that he's got on the brakes is quite incredible here. Randall McGrew, have a look at him through Indianapolis. He's slightly losing a little bit of time to Eric Ronenberg behind, but through Indianapolis, I imagine it's going to be pretty special as we have a look. Not using the curve on the left-hand side, braking down, and there's a car actually off. That's one of the GT4s, one of the McLarens, and it's upset Randall as well. He's going to go almost into the wall. He will go into the wall. And he's going to bend his steering as well. That hands Eric Ronenberg the lead and potentially the win of this race.
Well, I don't know if we saw a mistake like that from Randall McGrew. I wouldn't be shocked if we could see one from Eric Ronenberg. I wonder if maybe even with that damage, Randall might try and stay out, try and wait till the next pit cycle. Here's Jesse Singleton heading through Indianapolis now. Oh, wow, that's a big accident. Wow, that looked like it hurt. It looked like just got off the banking from the entry of Indianapolis, just all wrong, sends the car right around straight into the guardrail, and that was right before Randall McGrew ended up missing Indianapolis and heading into the guardrail. Here's what happened to Randall. You can see that stop Ferrari on the inside. Randall just goes wide, can't get the car turned right into the tire barrier. That's gotta hurt.
The good news is that Randall's car, I was watching his Twitch stream for a moment to see whether he's got any steering damage or anything, and it looks like he's okay. As yes, he's streaming right now, and well, there were some choice words he had for himself after that one, but no, his steering looks okay. So I think only a little bit of aero damage, and maybe being slightly dramatic when I say that they're going to probably lose this race, but a chance now for Eric Ronenberg to pull a little bit of a gap until Randall comes into the pits and is able to get whatever damage he's got repaired, because obviously a hit on the barrier that large is going to give you some damage, whether it be purely straight line speed.
Yeah, Randall, I mean, the only thing Randall can do right now is just stay in the slipstream of Eric Ronenberg. If he falls out of that slipstream, he really just has no shot at catching back up to Eric Ronenberg until they get to the pit stops next, which isn't going to be for a couple of laps. So Randall pretty much has his cards laid out for him. Now he's just got to play him and see what happens. But there's another race in the GT4 class as Jack Lee is caught up to Grant Turner now, and these two are racing each other's head through the Ford chicanes. I reckon Jack Lee probably going to have to wait till the first couple of corners to make this move. I mean, you really can't do anything through the Ford chicanes, but here he comes now down the front straight. I reckon he might make this move into turn number 1, maybe through the Dunlop chicane, try and send it up the inside. We'll have to see what happens, as it looks like not close enough on this occasion.
Definitely not. Jack Lee now starts to think that maybe he's got an opportunity of a podium here if he can get through into this 4th position. Anything else does happen to Randall. Of course, now he's made that one mistake. Perhaps that stops Randall. Well, the 2 mistakes, actually, if you count the fuel into the pit stop. As now down the inside goes Jack Lee, going to get that move. And no real complaints on that front. But now Randall, he's made 2 mistakes in this race. The question is, can there be a third? And can that allow someone else to get through? That being said, he's gaining on Eric Ronenberg, so something is going on with Randall, and well, I don't think even Randall knows.
Yeah, I don't know. So it doesn't look like that damage is affecting that car basically at all. So he's still closing this gap down rapidly, using this slipstream as they head into the second Mulsanne chicane. So Randall McGrew, I mean, we all thought he was out of it, but it looks like he's not even getting started at the moment, or he's just getting started at the moment, as now he's got the gap under 0.6 of a second almost, and he's using, or pretty much just using, these other cars as picks to try and minimize the effect that damage has on his Aston Martin. So great, smart driving on his part, and it looks like, I mean, the race for the lead is going to be back on in just a couple of corners.
Hey guys, I got a quick question for you. If you're in Ronenberg's shoes right now and you saw that gap, obviously you know Randall has damage. Do you think this is Ronenberg saw this as a chance to lift, knowing Randall's got damage, just to lift and save some fuel while Randall catches back up? It's really not going to hurt Ronenberg's race at all until they get back into the pits anyways. If Randall's got damage, he gets in first, and he's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, but remember, Randall's got the fast repair, so the question is, how much is he actually going to lose in the pit stop? That's his first real damage of the day, but maybe Ronenberg, if that is what he's thinking about, I think he's miscued it, because I don't think that is a viable way to win this race with how fast Randall McGrew has been, even in clean air. I think here Ronenberg, even though he is right on the bubble as we start to head into the last half an hour of this race, I think Randall McGrew once again becomes favourite for this one.
Well, that also comes with the fact that, I mean, this damage is going to really start to just affect Randall McGrew all throughout this race. You can see how much he's having to use these lap cars just to maintain as much speed as possible. And actually, there are still races going on throughout the GT4 field right now, as Grant Turner and Jack Lee still going at it. Paul Mikolajczyk and Jerry DiPiero are having a little scrap of their own as they head towards Indianapolis now. So his battle is for 6th, the one between Jack Lee and Grant Turner for 4th, as Paul Mikolajczyk trying to close the gap. He's got a nice slipstream run. You see the gap closing now as they head onto the Rolex banner. And now he goes to the outside, Paul Mikolajczyk does, as they head towards Indianapolis. They'll be side by side into the little kink before the corner. You got to wonder, will either of them lift, or will they try and go side by side through Indianapolis and the corner before it? So onto the brakes, it's a slight tap. That's a bold move from Paul Mikolajczyk to keep his foot in it there, and it ends up working out. He takes over 6th place.
Absolutely, but it's still going to have a go. Is DiPiero around the outside? Maybe? No, not quite. Just has to concede that position, maybe. On the exit, though, in that BMW. Look at how big it is. I love how the BMW...
I was about to mention that. So we're in an hour-and-a-half race right now, so my mind starts to wander a little bit. And I'm just looking at this BMW, and it is twice the size of that McLaren, and it's keeping up with it. You would think that McLaren would be a rocket ship compared to that Beamer, but the Beamer's holding its own.
Well, the thing is, it's so... compared to the GT3, it's such a mini version of their GT3 and GTE that it looks really disproportionate and like little. It looks like a little baby BMW.
It's like when a mother brings her firstborn to the track day for the first time. That's what we're looking at right now. That's what we're looking at. It's like National Geographic. A wild BMW brings her child to a track day for the first time. That's Jerry DiPiero right now driving that little baby G3 car.
And well, trying to muscle his way through. It's not like he's not got a lot of muscle in that car, park that on the apex, and no one's getting through, even in a bike. But on a bike, I suppose. You're not in a bike. That would be a different. Anyway, it's not able to get through.
Tom, Adam really liked that one. Adam really liked that one. He's dying over here. I know you guys can't hear it on the stream, but he's laughing his heart out over here in the virtual production truck as we're watching little baby BMW. Little baby BMW.
Well, anyway, it's maybe
Oh.
the end of season
no.
montage, but
Now loose.
well, there's a bit of a mistake from Paul Mikolajczyk. Obviously, the imposing presence of the BMW is a little bit. Oh, he's blinking in and out, and all that's upset the BMW as well. It goes around the outside now, and that is going to be that for the time being. Anyway, there's going to go into 5th position, Jerry Di Piero, and well, that's about how you do that when your teammate, well, your rival is blinking in and out of contention.
Looks like a special edition Shadow Realm BMW being raced at Le Mans for the first time here today. Is Paul Mikolajczyk going to try and make another move around the outside now? Down the Mulsanne straight. We have gotten into the 1 hour mark at the moment. So under half an hour to go for these drivers to make as much moves as they can. Get themselves back into a fighting chance. Randall McGrew and Eric Ronenberg still fighting for the lead. Looks like Jerry Di Piero not able to make that move. Paul Mikolajczyk takes that spot over once more. Eduardo Pecorini into the pits. And this battle has still been going on pretty much the entire race. These two are going to go side by side once more as they head towards Indianapolis. Randall McGrew with the advantage off the outside. He'll have the inside as they head into Indianapolis now. But it looks like they're still just dead even as they head into this corner. Still side by side. Very bold move from both drivers. A very big send from Eric Ronenberg there. But Randall McGrew is going to get that momentum off the corner. They're still side by side. Now is Randall McGrew and Eric Ronenberg braking into that corner. And it looks like a little bit sideways off the corner for Randall McGrew. And Eric Ronenberg going to get his nose out in front. And they are still side by side as they head towards the Porsche curves now. Eric Ronenberg has that advantage. He has his nose out in front before they get to the corner, but Randall could be side drafting there. They're just still dead even as they blast down the straight towards the Porsche curves. Onto the brakes for the first one, and now it looks like Eric Ronenberg is going to take this spot back, and I was wrong. They are still side by side, and they intimidated the BMW behind them. Bruce Jackson goes around, and Eric Ronenberg finally takes back over the GT4 lead.
He does so, and does so very well indeed. That was a bold move, wasn't it, into the Porsche curves. Randall McGrew not able to do much about that. He is still in that battered and that bruised car. So the GT3s come into the pits once more for their 3rd stop of the day, and perhaps their penultimate stop as well, which means these GT4 guys are going to go probably a lap, maybe even 2 laps extra. If we're going about 6 laps per stint, then yeah, it would probably be about 2 laps they'd be in at the end of the next lap, we would assume. Though I think Randall McGrew might opt to take maybe a little bit earlier if he can go to the end of the race. That's going to be the key now. But these guys go through and actually I think take technically overall position on some GT3 cars with all of the pit stops. But Eric Ronenberg able to hold on to the lead of the race. This slipstream is so important for Randall McGrew, who clearly isn't as damaged as we expected.
Tom and Alex, how powerful do you think the undercut could be here? I don't know. Again, we don't know if he's already done tires or not, or if these drivers are going to use tires. Obviously, I don't know if Randall leaves Eric, if Randall decides to go in first, Randall's got no draft help. How important could that be with these GT4s taking tires as they fuel? I don't know if it's really going to hurt Randall as much. Clean track, brand new tires, 1 lap with Ronenberg on older tires with no draft. That may be worth something.
Well, I don't know, honestly. I mean, I feel like it might honestly all depend on how much fuel these cars burn in a lap. Because say if Randall were to have pit that last time by, he might have been able to take less fuel than Eric Ronenberg would have if he pitted this time by. So, I mean, I think if Randall were to do, maybe if he were to pit this lap and have Ronenberg pit the lap after, he could use the amount of more time it takes to fuel the car for Ronenberg's side to maybe make up a bit of time and probably come out of the pit cycle with the lead. I don't know, though. I think Eric Ronenberg, he's been so much faster than Randall in the pit lane all day long. So I think no matter what Randall does, I mean, Eric Ronenberg is probably going to have the advantage when they have to pit again.
Well, remember that that undercut did work in the GT3s. He was able to get 2 seconds on Edgar Santinelli throughout those pit stop phases and ahead of Bobby Ross as well. So, Eduardo Pecorini, my apologies. He was able to get ahead.
Tom, when he wins this race and I drag him in for you to interview him, I'm gonna say Edgar Santinelli, just so you know, just for you. I got you.
Well, really, I could read the name. It says Eduardo Pecorini. I don't know by my mouth saying something different, but anyway, he was able to pull 15 seconds on 2 seconds on Eduardo Pecorini, and so we know that the undercut is going to work in this race. The question is, can they pull it off when the lead of the race is in question?
I don't know, though. I mean, we've seen how powerful the undercut can be, like you mentioned there, Tom. And, I mean, another thing is that has to come into play GT3 traffic. I mean, we just saw Bruce Jackson blast by these drivers, but say if Bruce were to catch up to them in maybe the Porsche or Corvette curves or maybe the Ford chicane, if a GT3 car were to catch up to these two drivers in, say, that section of racetrack, I mean, it could be absolutely disastrous. Say one of those GT3 cars gets around maybe per se Randall McGrew or ended up going side by side with Randall through the Ford chicanes, that's going to slow him down tremendously, especially because that GT3 car can just motor on past Eric Ronenberg down the front straightaway without Eric having to bat an eye.
I think here Ronenberg might be better off taking the pit stop early, to be honest with you. I think come in at the end of this lap, because if he can pull the dictate the strategy ahead of Randall McGrew, is this time putting a car in between the two of them through the
what a send!
Is really, really good as Gary Cantera gets through, albeit a little bit treacherously. But if Eric Ronenberg can call the shots here, then all of a sudden he forces Randall McGrew into making a decision. I usually say that at the lead of the race, you've got to be the one who just sort of goes as long as you can. But I think here Eric Ronenberg might benefit from doing a little bit of an undercut, particularly with Randall McGrew's damage. If he can force McGrew into going for this overcut, which has happened as they're both going into the pits.
Yeah, so this should be their last pit stop of the day, and with Kerry Cantera catching them in that spot in the Porsche curves, that goes back to exactly what I said. With how Kerry Cantera caught them, it was in a bad situation for all three cars, almost caused an incident there as Kerry sent it in the Porsche curve. So that is it's just trying to have that balancing act to realize, okay, I gotta let the GT3 car by or I'm gonna lose seconds off the leader. But Jerry DiPiero and Paul Michalegic still going at it as Eric Ronenberg and Randall McGrew pull into their pit stalls. I don't know, looks like they got into their stalls pretty evenly. We have to see if either of them go up on the jack stands. Doesn't look like it for now. Just fuel only stop for both drivers. So Randall did take a fast repair there as well. There is no more damage on the right side of his car. So a great job from Randall to manage that damage. But it looks like Eric Ronenberg got out of the pits way before Randall can even blink. And Randall gets out way after Eric Ronenberg. That might have just decided this race.
Well, here we go. As Randall McGrew did get the damage fixed. However, we saw that because the bonnet got flattened back down. It was slightly raised before. This battle is still going on between the BMW. There's another BMW having a battle. It's Bruce Jackson and Kerry Cantera, as this is, the parent BMW, I suppose, the big one, as the Mercedes not quite looking as small comparatively. Jack Lee is going to get ahead of Randall McGrew into second position. This is a huge development, as now not only has Randall McGrew got to battle with Jack Lee, who, if you remember, to all those laps ago had that incident with Robert Schwenkler, able to get his car back into the pit lane, repaired and everything. Now he's back into second position with a chance of winning this race. However, now Randall McGrew has got to get past both him and Eric Ronenberg.
Well, now, something that just popped into my head after watching Jack Lee pull out in front of Randall McGrew is the thing is, I mean, Eric is just chilling up there with no draft help at all. If Randall decides to stick in line with that McLaren and start pushing him down these straights, they could start making up a lot of time just off the straightaways alone. And with how much time you spend full throttle at this track, I mean, that amount of time pushing the car in front could make up that gap to Eric Ronenberg and give us a 3-car fight for the win.
Potentially, I think that's just a little bit too nice of an idea. After an hour and a half of racing at Le Mans, as the sun starts to go down, we see Grant Turner now having a battle with Dustin Arliss. Turner in the 39 car, just ahead at the moment of that Dogecoin McLaren, the 488. Of course, one of the other guest entries in this league, very extravagantly liveried as well. There. And did someone run that in real life as well, if I'm not mistaken? But anyway, to the outside he goes, and probably going to be able to get through here. They're so close in terms of top speed, all of these GT4 cars, that it's so difficult to just about get the rest of that car ahead. He does in the end, and now it looks like Dustin Arliss is going to hold on to that 4th position, unless there can be a counter-attack on the brakes from the 39. Doesn't look like there's going to be, and in fact I think he lifts off down into the Daytona chicane.
Well, Tom, I heard you mention something about there being a Dogecoin car like that in real life, and yes, I'm going to push up my NASCAR nerd glasses real fast and say, yes, there was. Josh Wise driving the number 98 car was sponsored by Dogecoin, and I think either 2014 or 2015. So Dogecoin was a sponsor, and Adam just mentioned something good in my ear to take me off my NASCAR rant for a second. This gap just got closed by a second. I'm not sure whether that was because of the Mulsanne corner or the straights. That gap just went down by a second. And with 20 minutes left, probably 4 or 5 laps left, and a second off one corner, I think they can close that gap. But side by side is Jerry DiPiero and Paul Mikolajczyk as they head towards the second chicane. We've seen how these two drivers refuse to back out on each other, especially down in Indianapolis. We'll see what they do this time. Jerry DiPiero has his nose out in front. Paul Mikolajczyk murders that cone, and it looks like Jerry DiPiero is going to maintain that spot.
Yes, well, that BMW is definitely picking a fight outside of his weight class, but able to get on through, and will hopefully be holding on there. I don't think the boxing authorities would let that one go ahead. I'm slightly nicking that joke from a clip from the other day, but anyway, we'll continue on. It's Eduardo Pecorini there in the lead of the race. He's going to pass these guys. He's going to flash them as well. Now, I think I made it clear my opinions on that in the WSRL Endurance Series yesterday. But anyway, as he gets through once more, there was no need to flash them there. As I'm not one to judge, but it was on a straight. They don't need to move over.
Hey, well, hang on. Stand by. Hang on.
Well, if Jack leaves in the pits.
If you say there's no need to flash someone on a straights, all I'm going to say is I'm pretty sure Fernando Alonso wishes he had headlights that he could flash at COTA, and that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, well,
I don't watch Formula One.
Well, anyway, I just hate the flash button so much. I think it's so pointless. I mean, there's times, obviously, like if you're about to win a race and you've got 2 minutes left and you're chasing down 0.5 of a second and someone's in your way, obviously flash, or someone's not getting out of your way, flash them then, but not in the middle of a race. I mean, anyway.
Oh, it's funny. You never just see like a BMW that looks angry just flash its headlights while it goes down a straightaway. Come on, it's entertaining. It's entertaining. Oh, Jerry DiPiero is... Oh, no! Little bit of contact with a Porsche there. Sends him off track while at full throttle. Does a great job bringing it back onto the racing surface. Could be a little bit of left side damage, and it looks like his race with Paul Mikolajczyk is going to be ended. No left side damage from what I can tell. Oh, no, the fender is a little bit scraped up in the front there. But here's Randall McGrew. He actually just caught up and passed. Eric Ronenberg after Jack Lee had gone into the pits, presumably for his last stop. So now Randall McGrew and Eric Ronenberg are going to be breathing down each other's necks once more.
Ronenberg has had to have made a mistake, because I really do not think that there's any way he's chased down 4 seconds in the space of 2 laps. So that being said, it is Le Mans, isn't it? So I suppose it's not that unheard of. But to make the move as well, there's got to have been a mistake from Ronenberg somewhere. But now he's going to try and get back ahead because he's got the slipstream. If he can play this smart into the last 15 minutes of this race, he can still be in with a chance. Here he's going to go. Here is the fight back for Eric Ronenberg. He's into the second Mulsanne chicane. He's going to get the lead of the race back. But as we go into the last few laps of this race, hour and a half of racing at Le Mans. It's going to be all up against the wall for both Ronenberg and Randall McGrew. As the headlights come on, I think we're officially past sunset.
Yep, those look like the track lights that just popped on, as well as the guardrails just lit up with a little bit more light than usual. So Jerry DiPiero looked like went into the pits to fix his damage now, and looks like he just headed out of the pits. And there is another battle going on in the GT4 class, albeit it's not as close as this one. As it looked like for oh wow, something just happened to Eric Ronenberg. He got really sideways there. I apologize for having to make you swap back and forth like that, Adam, but I did not see that coming from Eric Ronenberg. And Adam, you know what? I heard that from the production truck. I love you too. I love you too. I'm not sure what just happened to Eric Ronenberg.
Well, no, there we go. I think he's having some trouble because there's no way he's lost out on 4 seconds and then a further 1.5.
Guys, I think he may have underfueled his car, which is why he got out so far ahead of Randall McGrew, and that's why he's losing all this time. I really think he's in full fuel save mode at this point.
So does a fast repair not lose you a little bit of time as you go? Because surely, even though it's a fast repair, you still lose a couple of seconds for it to take effect. So
it makes you
explain that.
You lose a little bit, but not a whole lot.
I thought fast repairs like apply instantly. I thought if they lose you anytime, it might be like a couple of tenths, because I know windshield tear-offs cost you like a tenth of a second. That's why I usually don't take them whenever I race.
So we've got a message here in the YouTube chat again from Chuckly. Again, thanks for watching the race, by the way, man. Says Eric Ronenberg, he must be in a Discord with these two. Eric Ronenberg keeps getting slowdowns. So he must have had a slowdown that we missed. I was looking for off tracks. I didn't see him. And it's looking like Eric must have had a slowdown, and now I'm getting word that they both underfueled their cars to try to, obviously, they were racing. He must have inside information from both camps over there, so they're both going to be fuel saving, which I'm telling you, I told you, that is exactly what Eric was doing, I believe, to get Randall back up to him. He knew he had a chance to save a little fuel, but now he's got to stay in that slipstream, but now Randall's going to save fuel, so who knows what's going to happen here.
Yeah, but the thing is, I would reckon Eric Ronenberg is going to have a better shot to save fuel, especially down the Mulsanne straight. I mean, with the slipstream, Eric Ronenberg, he's got the gap well under a second now. He doesn't need to worry if he can just nail the Dunlop chicane, the S's, and Tertre Rouge. He'll have a nice, easy slipstream down the Mulsanne straight. That'll be a really good opportunity to save some fuel. So in the case that they both underfueled their cars, I reckon that Eric Ronenberg might be better off here, unless Randall McGrew finds a way to force Eric Ronenberg past. This might be a battle for who can pretty much just this might be a battle for who can just stay in second to save fuel the most.
Well, I'm going to mention, and then I'm going to let you have it back, I promise, Tom. There's a 47-second gap back to Jack Lee. And I'm going to use a British term here real quick and say that Randall may be a little bit cheeky here and decide to back off and try to get Eric back in front of him. This may be the slowest race we've ever seen in history between these GT4s if they're both trying to stay behind each other.
Well, there's no way that the term cheeky is exclusively British. You're telling me Americans don't use the word cheeky? Oh,
we do, but we probably adopted it from you. But you guys have adopted a lot of important stuff from us as well, and we're obviously the better country. Anyways, don't worry about that. But yeah.
Oh dear God, we gotta get out the boxing gloves. I'll build the ring. Give me a couple of minutes.
Well, I'll take the BMW in any case, as we see Eric Ronenberg trying to still stay in that slipstream and chase down Randall McGrew, though obviously this may be a race of fuel to the line rather than of track position. I mean, it might see a Toyota 2016 sort of scenario where Randall McGrew pulls over to the side on the final lap, as does Eric Ronenberg, and we see Jack Lee sail on through for the victory. But I think right now they'll be feeling pretty comfortable. There's 12 minutes to go. They've got enough time where they can do a splash and dash. So I don't think that's a major concern. And I wonder at what stage do you decide, actually, maybe I can't get to the end here. I do need to take a couple of litres for that final lap. As we see stint lengths, 5 laps for the GT3s, seeming to be the case here. Which on that would suggest actually that they're going to need to do another stop here, the GT3s, as you see Jackson actually has. So he's going to be able to go to the end. It will be a shorter stop. I don't think we'll have 5 laps left here. But Pecorini, Ross and co probably going to be in for the next lap. 5 laps of the GT4 GT4s as well. I thought it was 6 laps, to be honest with you. After that first, I believe it was on lap 6 that they came in, but anyway, 5 laps as a whole, that stint. So 3 more laps. How long's a lap here with GT4s? I want to say about 4 minutes. Then you're looking at, well, you're looking at 3 more laps, aren't you, really?
Well, I mean, when they cross, I don't mean to interrupt you there, Tom, but when they cross the line this time by, they might be at maybe 20, maybe 20, 30, maybe 20, maybe a minute 21, maybe minute 21:30, and a lap for these GT3 cars, or GT4 cars, is about 4 minutes and 20 seconds. So I think that if they just save a little bit of fuel, it's only going to be maybe maybe 3 laps. 3 laps they're going to have to make it to the end. If they can save a little bit of fuel here and there, I think they might be able to do it. I'm not sure that they might have to come into the pits and take a gallon or 2 of fuel.
Well, how much fuel can you save while you're racing somebody, though? That's the question. I mean, this is gonna get close.
It's going to be a close race, but I think just about Randall McGrew could hold on to this. It's all going to come down to how effectively they can lift and coast here. Essentially, that's going to be what it comes down to at the end of the day. Ronenberg, of course, he's got that slipstream. So how much of an advantage that, I know I basically said it yesterday on the WSRL stream, the fact that it only really is a factor when it comes to being in the slipstream throughout the course of the entire race, over the course of an entire stint, I apologise, when it starts to save you a great deal of fuel. It's, I think, it's going to be one of those things where, almost like a Formula E race, got to be lifting off at least 50 meters before the corner and just sort of hoping that you can just about squeeze it to the end here. It's definitely going to be a nervy final lap, that's for sure.
Yes, I mean, what honestly, there's several possibilities here. I mean, the main couple of possibilities, so it looks like, the GT3 cars will have one final splash of fuel to the end of the race, but there's a couple of possibilities here. The one is that Randall McGrew and Eric Ronenberg, they don't have to come into the pits for fuel, and they end up just battling it out. Second possibility number 2 I'm going with. Either Eric or Randall, or both of them, realize that they can't make it to the end on fuel, so they come in, take a gallon or 2 to go out and keep racing. Or they think they can make the white flag. They think they can make that last lap around this 8-mile circuit. And when they come around, maybe around the Mulsanne corner, they realize, I'm going to run out of fuel. They run out of fuel, and in the final sector, Jack Lee comes home and wins. So, I mean, there's several things that could happen here. I mean, we just don't know which one. It really could be any of them, but Randall really missed that corner, and Eric Ronenberg was able to get in front of him.
Maybe a bit of tactics from Randall McGrew to try and get that slipstream back. But as I said, I'm not too sure how much of an effect it has being in that slipstream. Whether it is purely a case of over the course of the stint it's a huge effect, or whether it's something else. But anyway, Randall perhaps trying to get to the inside here. He's going to stay behind. I think this is smart, as we get to the line, they've probably got 2.5 laps left. So whether that will go into a third or not, probably 2 laps left at the line by my reckoning. How long have we got left? 7 minutes. So yeah, about 2 laps left. So this is going to be very interesting indeed. Onto the penultimate lap of the race, and the question will be, at the end of that lap, does any of them pit? As all of the GT3s are starting to come into the pits themselves. So these guys looking to basically go on a single stint less than the GT3s. But here we go, Randall McGrew lifting all the way through the Mulsanne corner. How much of that was fuel saving, how much of that was to purely avoid the back of that 417, I'm not too sure. And at what point now does Randall say, actually, I'm not going to get to the end of this race. I've got to relax, I've got to save fuel, and I've got to basically give up the race win and hope that Ronenberg has some problems, because I'm not going to get to the end if I'm trying to push him to the line.
Well, I'd reckon at this point Randall's probably half throttle right now, but you might hear a lift from him. Yeah, there's the lift. You hear it. He's not on the brakes at all lifting. Probably pushes the clutch in as well. Then he hits the brakes for the corner, so he lifts. Maybe, I would say maybe quite a ways away from the field, maybe a football field away from where he would actually have to brake. So really, Randall realizes he cannot make it on fuel. Ronenberg probably can't either, but they are still going at it like it's the last lap at the moment. So, I mean, they want to stay up here. Neither of them want to come into the pits, but they are both realizing that if they make it to the race, it will be by the skin of their teeth.
Well, by the looks of it, it's going to be one of those things where he's definitely not clutching. I can tell you that, because the engine would cut out if he was clutching. So that's not the case here. He is only lifting and coasting. I mean, there are some people who debate the efficacy of clutch and coast, but it's a story for another time. Right now, the point is, though, that Randall is just taking it easy, certainly trying to save this fuel. Ray Lombardi says that he was just sitting with his last pit stop 16 seconds ahead of P5. Needed 21 litres. Pretty sure I'd have made P4 in my first race in this car. Yes, frustrating pit stops affecting us all. There into the pits goes Ronenberg, and McGrew is not going to move.
Wow. So Eric Ronenberg realizes he can't make it. Probably going to get just a splash of fuel, maybe a gallon or two in the pits. And here's Jack Lee. And now this is the interesting part. We have to see where Ronenberg comes out of the pits, because if Jack Lee gets in front of him, Jack Lee could win this race if Randall McGrew can't make it. So Jack Lee, I would say, is maybe 30. I'm not even sure how far he is behind. Here's the pit lane cam. This will tell us. You'll see Eric Ronenberg fueling his car up there. Jack Lee might be entering the Ford chicanes at the moment. Very slow series of corners, and it looks like not even out of the pits yet. Here he is just heading into the Ford chicanes. Eric Ronenberg now on pit exit. So I think Eric will still for sure be in front of him, but Jack Lee will still be dangerously close. There he is heading down the front straightaway. So if Eric Ronenberg has any issues, Jack Lee is going to be right there to pounce. And now it's all up to whether or not Randall McGrew can save enough fuel. Now we have to look at where Eduardo Pecorini is, because if Eduardo Pecorini didn't take the white flag that time I believe they're on the penultimate lap right now. So I don't think, they are not on the white flag. They're definitely not on the white flag. So they're going to collect the white flag this time by, and you can see how much Randall is lifting, realizing that he has about a 40-second buffer to Eric Ronenberg, and he knows he can save as much fuel as he needs right now.
But McGrew's going to have to do 2 more laps, because Eduardo Pecorini will take the white flag on this lap. McGrew's got to hope that Pecorini can get past him so that his next lap will be the final lap, because at the moment Eduardo Pecorini is just behind him. McGrew in the 444, they're both on the Mulsanne straight. You can see there is Eduardo Pecorini in the top of your picture. He's got to get past McGrew, because next time by will be the white flag. However, it won't be the white flag for McGrew, who may have to do yet another lap, and that could be colossal for his race here. He's going to let Eduardo Pecorini through. Surely he's going to let Eduardo Pecorini through.
Yeah, and that's something that I was thinking about there. I'm not sure if it's against the rules, but if Randall realizes Eduardo's not going to catch him by the end of the lap just off raw pace, which I highly doubt given how fast Eduardo Pecorini is, but in the case that he doesn't, would it be against the rules for Randall to intentionally slow down and let Pecorini by him so he only has to do 1 more lap? I don't think
it's just race management, isn't it? That shouldn't be against the rules. If it is, then I'd be surprised.
Yeah, I don't think it would be necessary, though, as Eduardo is really closing this gap down. He's closing it down very quickly now, as there's a bit of a race between Bannock Opp and Bobby Ross as well. Jack Lee is right on the back bumper of Eric Ronenberg, too. These two are side by side now down the Mulsanne straight. Contact! They doored each other there. Bannock Opp is, for some reason, not happy with Bobby Ross. Doored him down the Mulsanne straight. He'll take over P2 because of that. Wow.
Oh, that's a way to get through. But Bobby Ross will be frustrated at that. Here we go. Here's Jack Lee looking to make a move on Ronenberg, who for some reason is still perilously slow in this race. And Jack Lee gets to 2nd position. That was a 7-second gap as they went to the line. So Ronenberg obviously still being plagued by his slowdown issues. But crucially, Eduardo Pecorini ahead of Randall McGrew. Randall now onto the final lap of the race when they get to the line, as Ross still trying to attack. Opp can't quite get through at this stage. Headlights ablaze on all of these cars at this stage in the evening at Le Mans. Eduardo Pecorini will take the white flag on this lap. They're heading through the Porsche curves right now, as here goes Bobby Ross around the outside. This isn't going to be a question of the pit stops and all of that. This is just going to be about getting to the line, and Bobby Ross is able to get through. However, that Porsche is going to tag him, and they're all into the wall.
Oh my God!
Heading upside down and rolling on his roof across the Mulsanne Straight, and that's, well, it's not the Mulsanne Straight, I apologise, down to Indianapolis, isn't it? And he's on the roof, and he is not going anywhere very soon at all.
Wow. That is something I never would have expected, but I mean, you could kind of expect maybe a spin, not an entire flip. That Porsche went clean over, just did a perfect clean barrel roll, landed on its roof. That was a massive hit, but we're on the last lap now, and the question still remains, can Randall McGrew make it to the end of this race? I want to keep an eye on him pretty much throughout this lap. I know these two are battling, but I want to see if we can keep an eye on this battle and Randall at the same time to see if Randall can make it to the end of this race.
There's a Mercedes at that corner flipping, well, being involved in an incident about flipping upside down. Never seen that before. But anyways, we see Eric Ronenberg now trying to get back into second position. He obviously has got the pace to try and attack Jack Lee. He's just struggling a little bit with obviously his slow down penalties. Here's Randall McGrew on his final lap of the race. He's just got to crawl over the line now. It's not too far to go. It's I think an 8-kilometer circuit, this one, so not a great deal of time as he goes down the Mulsanne Straight. Listen to the car. He isn't lifting or anything. He's not half throttle or anything dramatic like that, but he is hemorrhaging time to Jack Lee behind.
I'm going to correct you real fast. It's an 8-mile circuit, 13-kilometer circuit. You see how early he's lifting right there. Super early lift, way before he ever has to touch the brakes. So utilizing this gap to save as much fuel as he can now. And just, I mean, he's about, I want to say when he gets to the second chicane, maybe halfway through the lap. And then it'll only be half a lap to go before the end. But then you get Eric Ronenberg now and Jack Lee, who they're pushing as hard as they can. They don't have to save fuel. They can cleanly make it to the end. Just the question is, I mean, Randall, he has no other opportunity. His only option is to save as much fuel as he can and just try and crawl across the line.
Ronenberg is going to try and get down the inside into the Daytona chicane. He's going to be able to do it almost certainly here on the McLaren. It's Aston Martin on McLaren, and in fact he can't get it done as the McLaren just a little bit faster through the corner. No switchback available to him either. Jackson's going to have to pit on the final lap of this race as we go back to this man, Randall McGrew. 40 seconds is the gap to Jack Lee behind, and I think you can hear the GT4s aren't particularly fast anyway. However, they're usually a little bit faster than this. Braking, and listen to the engine braking as well. He's not using any engine braking in this car. Randall McGrew is right on the bubble. Third gear through the Mulsanne corner when usually you're thinking at least second. This is absolutely unbelievable stuff. If he is able to get to the end, it definitely is going to be quite difficult for him. Quite an achievement as well. But here is Eric Ronenberg still trying to get through. Couldn't do anything into that second chicane. He's going to try Mulsanne corner. Probably the best overtaking opportunity on the circuits for these GT4 cars. He's got the slipstream. The question is, has he got that little bit of extra fuel? We know he pit, but did he slightly underfuel himself anyway to try and stay ahead of Jack Lee? Obviously, if he did so, it's been in vain. No move into Mulsanne corner.
I would think that maybe Eric Ronenberg would have realized that he has to make it to the end of this race. So I think regardless, he would have taken as much fuel as he can without losing too much time to Jack Lee, and it worked. So I think Eric Ronenberg is going to be good to the end. However, one thing to mention, through the Ford chicanes, he will come. He's dominated this entire race, and he's dominated every race before it. Eduardo Pecorini is going to head through the Ford chicanes for the final time. He'll win at Le Mans, but the race is still on in the GT4 class. Jack Lee and Eric Ronenberg side by side through Indianapolis now. There's Eduardo Pecorini crawling across the line. And it looks like Jack Lee, Eric Ronenberg still side by side. And it looks like Jack Lee, he has to run off the corner, but he's onto the curbs a little bit. Eric Ronenberg is going to get this spot. We need to take a look at Randall McGrew, see what he's doing now, see if he is still out of fuel as Dustin Hollis and Grant Turner side by side towards Mulsanne corner. And it looks like, I mean, still dead even as they break into this corner now. And it looks like Hollis with the run off the outside. Randall McGrew, however, it looks like for the most part, he's held off. He's saved enough fuel and he's made it to the end. Randall McGrew survives to win at Le Mans, and the race is on for second now. as it's going to be Jack Lee versus Eric Ronenberg as they head through the Porsche curves for the final time tonight. Eric Ronenberg has a pretty decent lead now, and Jack Lee is just going to have to push all he can if he wants this spot as they head towards the Ford chicane for the final time. This might go the way of Eric Ronenberg. I'm not sure if any move could be made here, and it looks like it really won't unless there's a major send from Jack Lee, but it looks like through the final chicane, Eric Ronenberg is going to take home P2. Jack Lee finishes on the podium there in third, and there's still a race in the GT class for fourth. Or in the GT4 class.
Absolutely, it's Dustin Arliss is going to try and get this fourth position back off of Grant Turner. Not going to be easy for him, however, down into the Porsche curves. And in fact, look at how tight of a line he's taking, trying to find a way through. In fact, that was him trying to open up the corner, wasn't it? Down into the Porsche curves, then it's the right and then into the left. And right now, it looks like it's going to be Grant Turner who holds on to this position. There's not too many overtaking opportunities after this on the circuit, as only for fourth position in the last race of the season. Anything is fair game, really. Grant Turner not quite able to hold on through the karting corner. It's wide from Dustin Arliss. That might just be all she wrote.
It looks like there's now a very large gap between these two cars. And it looks like through the Ford chicanes for the final time, I think this is going to go to Grant Turner. There's really nowhere for a move made. And even if there was, Dustin Arliss is too far back for it to happen. Grant Turner is going to take home P4 in the GT4 class with Dustin Arliss in fifth. Next car across the line is going to be the 73 car. Or excuse me, no, it's going to be Robert Schwenkler in the number 235 now. As he heads... Or no, I was correct, Adam. You're bad at TV cameras. The next car across the line is going to be Chad Seep in P4 for the GT3 class. Then behind him, Bruce Jackson and Kerry Cantera pretty close together, and it's going to be 5th and 6th respectively for those two drivers. Now we're just waiting on a slew of GT4 drivers to come across the line. Here's Robert Schwenkler, got knocked out of a fighting chance early, but kept going throughout the entire race. He ends up 6th. Now we're just waiting for 3 more cars, Paul Mikolajczyk, Jerry DiPiero, and Rob Neville to finish the race.
Well, successful season of XTC. I think it started all the way back in, I want to say, July. Did it not? Let me just double check my calendar here. As yes, June the 27th. But Barber Motorsport Park, that was when Adam Thompson, we thought he was going to win the championship. How absurd we were. As Paul Mikolajczyk crosses the line. He crawls across the line, actually, as is that BMW as well. Jerry DiPiero not quite getting the better of that battle in the end. In the Gulf BMW, well, not officially the Gulf BMW, but the Gulf BMW. Well, all the way through 10 rounds back to Le Mans, the 90-minute race now in November. A successful season. Took us 5 months, but well, I think Edoardo Beccarini champion. A fitting way to end it. Oh, no, not Rob. Oh, dear. He's going to...
You got it. You got it. Come on. He needs a push. He needs a push. Jerry's got to go backwards. Give him a push.
Oh,
I think
dear,
he's out of fuel.
Oh, no. Oh, you feel so bad for him as he's crawling to a stop.
Oh, he's out of gas.
The logo with a fuel company on it, and he runs out of it.
Wow.
On the final lap. He'll be classified in 9th positions. It won't actually matter, but he won't be able to cross the line. That is frustrating. Let's have a look at the crash between Bobby Ross and Opp. I think it was the 411 Porsche. He was out of the race, by the way. He wasn't able to tow it back to the pits. Believe it or not, is well, you'll have to take us through it, Alex, because I'm having an issue on my screen. Oh, right, we're not getting it. Anyway, I'll describe it to you for those who weren't around a little bit later on in the street. Here we go. It's down into Indianapolis, wasn't it? This is, I believe, the corner where that Mercedes flipped about 20, 30 years ago. And back Mark Webber was driving that car, not at the time of the flip, at least the one that's clipped on YouTube and things. It was on the left-hand side down here. But the Porsche goes and I think misjudges it ever so slightly, tries to go for the dummy move, doesn't quite pull off the dummy move, and well, ends up making a little bit of a dummy of himself into the air, and just well, unfortunately, well, that's a neck breaker, isn't it? In the real world, Bobby Ross somehow didn't come off too badly in that car. Is he's the no, the Mercedes I was talking about is a famous crash from 30 years ago. But the actual one,
Yeah, back when Mercedes built a car with a too short of a wheelbase, so it kept doing front blowovers.
it was the little crest. We got the
Yay,
results.
results! Yay!
I love how Adam was looking through the Mercedes flying in the air. But anyway,
He was looking for the one doing a backflip.
yes, Eduardo Pecorini wins the race, the championship as well, but that was already wrapped up. It's a perfect season for him. Absolutely perfect. Really, he only missed out on 2 races throughout, 3 races even. So 7 race wins for him. Bobby Ross in second, with Corey Vinicht in third, Chad Seep in fourth, Bruce Jackson in fifth, Gary Cantera in sixth. Bannick up in seventh, retiring from the race. Of course, we all saw what happened there with Devin Pratchett in 8th. Ray Lombardi finishes 9th, with Jesse Singleton in 10th, Joshua Benjamin in 11th, and Luca Finco in 12th.
I just love how he had the slowest spin of all time from Kerry Cantera in the background of that. That was beautiful. But anyways, Randall McGrew stretches out the fuel stint as far as he could go, wrings that tank dry. He'll win in his first Cross Touring Cup start at Le Mans in the GT4 class. Eric Ronenberg finishes a well-deserved second after pitting to make sure he could make it to the end with an intense battle from Jack Lee, who finished third. Then it was Grant Turner in 4th place. Dustin Wallace in 5th, who fought him a little bit for it. Robert Schwenkler then 6th. He got moved out of a spot to race for the win earlier, just couldn't really recover from it. Paul Mikolajczyk there in 7th, Jerry DiPiero in 8th, Rob Neville in 9th, James Keir in 10th, Jimmy Howitt in 11th, Jason Gotta finished 12th after an opening couple lap incident there from himself. And Tom, I believe you are standing by with the first of our couple of interviews here tonight.
Yes, well, we are going to drag in race winner Randall McGrew. Is Randall, it got a little bit close there towards the end, and you were able to just about crawl across the line. How close was fuel towards the end?
I got to about turn 1 and it started chugging. That was about turn 1. So I got it just about perfect.
Well, I mean, can't complain about that. But well, I mean, successful first race in XTC. You won it. How much were you pushed by Eric Ronenberg through there? And at what point did you think, actually, I've got the strategy right and can go on to win this?
Well, I knew I had the strategy right at about 6:30 a.m. this morning because, plain and simple, I'm the best there ever was. I wake up in the morning and I piss excellence. So I had this one nailed going into it.
Yeah, well, I have to agree, to be honest. Greatest driver I've ever seen, and greatest fuel saving as well. But anyway.
Honestly, I have to thank Eric. I was able to help me save a lot of fuel, but I was on a fuel saving strat pretty much the whole way.
Yes, well, anyone you want to shout out on the stream is well, obviously someone must have helped you get to the point where you wake up in excellence.
I'd like to thank the newborn baby Jesus and the Academy. I'd like to thank you guys up there in the production booth, in the commentary booth. You guys put on a hell of a broadcast. And Robert Schmeckler over in XTC, he puts on a really good league. If I didn't do trivia on Monday nights, I would be here every Monday. So if you're looking for a great league, this is one to race in.
Yes, well, thank you very much, Randall, and well done on the race win.
Thank you.
That was Randall McGrew, who, by his own admission, well, I can't repeat it, but he's very excellent indeed. Let's drag in a man who is no stranger to excellence. Eduardo Pecorini, you have won 7 races in the season, topped it off with a victory at Le Mans. And, well, you had probably the least eventful race of everyone. How does it feel taking another lights to flag?
Hi, Tom. Thanks, man. It was a fun race. I had a slow penalty, slowdown penalty at the beginning, so I got mixed up with the top 3, and it was I was being careful to pass them and build a gap. I managed to do that. Then I just tried to pace myself, not do any mistakes, this is a long track and it's easy to lose concentration. So I was just pacing it and really happy everything worked out.
And as the champion of the series now, we know their plans under wraps for the next season. Are you excited to look on to next season and perhaps try and defend your crown?
Yeah, sure, man. I'll be here to defend it. I see new people is coming, fast drivers too. So I know during the race, Banik was doing great times too. So I really hope to see him on the next season, and it's gonna be a pleasure to be here.
Yes, well, anyone you want to shout out on the stream?
Or all the XTC guys, again, huge shout out to them. It's a great effort they are doing, putting the league up with such professionalism. You two guys, Tom, Adam, Alex, always nice commentary and everything. So really glad to be here and hope to see you guys next season.
Well, thank you very much, Eduardo Pecorini. We look forward to seeing you next season as well.
Eduardo, real quick before we let you go, man. Thank you so much for all the kind words. I gotta tell you, man, you gotta slow down just a little bit. Let's make these races a little more interesting next season, please. I mean, that's the only thing I can ask you. You are clearly the fastest driver on the grid right now. Just slow down just a little bit for us, if you could.
I'm gonna try to be at the end of the quali, at the bottom of the quali, to make that for you, Anna.
All right, sounds great. Thanks, Eduardo.
Thank you, man. See you.
Thank you very much. And well, maybe we should get Edgar Sanchez to the league as well, so we can create some sort of vortex that just confuses me. Well,
that would be very entertaining.
I think I know we're already supposed to do the winner from each class, but I think we'll drag in Robert Schwenkler just for. Oh, he's left. Oh, right, okay, we want to hear from Bobby. So Robert Schwenkler's left, unfortunately, so we'll hear Bobby. Bobby, well, welcome to the broadcast. You finished pretty well in the end, but I've got to ask you about the elephant in the room. Obviously not your fault, but what on earth happened with that Porsche?
He didn't do a very good job of taking me out. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, he flipped. I was wondering, like, he turned left, and he flipped.
And I was surprised. I was like, oh, I'm still going? Oh, okay. I was like, all I can say is get good, dude.
B.
Hey, Mom, I got P2. Woo!
I think I can
me right now. Hold on. Everyone.
Hi, Bobby's mom.
Yeah, they're all saying hi, Bobby's mom.
Oh, I love you guys.
Thank you.
World. I love him.
Awesome. No, but all seriousness, no. I thought it was a pretty good race up until that point. I know. What was his name? I already forgot the dude's name. Oh well. Must not have been a. There you go. But up to that point, we like good clean racing with Corey, especially at the beginning with Eduardo. At one point, I think we went 3 wide for the lead. It was awesome. I think my mom's happy.
You can just hear it ever so faintly in the background. It's great.
Oh my gosh. But no. First off, it was a good season overall. Congratulations to Eduardo Pecorini. Phenomenal drive by him all season. He was the driver to beat Pecorini. Phenomenal drive by him all season. He was the driver to beat. There's my mom. But no, again, thank you guys for slow motion broadcasting. You guys have done a phenomenal job with the commentary. I need to rewatch the replay because I want to see what happened from the broadcaster's point of view. Did you guys catch that live when it happened?
Yes, we captured it very live.
So, Bobby,
Gotcha.
here's the deal with the replay. I think I may have had a bit of an internet spike or something. Got the end of it for sure, but some of the middle parts were not there. But yeah, we caught it for sure.
Gotcha. But let's add that out of the way. Besides that, no, I thought it was a pretty good race overall, and good racing with Corey. It's a shame it wasn't closer at the end because he was a pretty good drive. Props to him. And I think Grant Turner as well. And of course, like, sorry if I'm sounding like a broken record, but of course, Eduardo Pecorini for win the championship. And no, it was I think that's a good way to end off the season for season 2 of XTC.
And anyway, in the off season, for you to get up to Eduardo Pecorini and win it next year. Well,
Yes, I'm gonna give it my all for season 3.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Bobby Ross, and we'll speak to you soon.
10-4, guys. Take care.
So we're just going to wait for Rob, and then we'll have a word with him. Let's have a look at the racing for. Oh, actually, I'll tell you what. Probably the best thing that we can do, if we quickly go through our upcoming broadcast, that might be an idea while we wait for Rob. So, well, you can join us for our next broadcast on Tuesday, November the 8th, LMP2 and GT3 at the Red Bull Ring for WSRL. Then it's WSRL Indy on Thursday, November the 10th. That's at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit. Then it's Spec 5 on Thursday, November the 10th at Phillip Island, with XSRL on Sunday, November the 13th. In that VW Beetle.
Tom, I'm gonna correct you real fast. It's XSLR. I think you said XSRL.
No, it says XSRL on my sheet.
Oh, it does. Oh. Oh,
Rob.
we can blame Rob when he gets in here.
Yes. Well, hello, Rob. Messing me up on my broadcast, on your own broadcast, actually. But well, your race, unfortunately, not the greatest, but you're champion anyway, so it's not like it matters. But in terms of everything else, we'll ask you about the league. Another really successful season of XTC. Is there anything you could announce about next year?
Thanks, guys. Yeah, just real quick on my race. I was super bummed. I don't know if Jack is watching. Sorry if I gave him major damage. I had hardcore steering damage, and there was no way I could limp back to the pits, so I had to tow, and that was my race. So. Anyway, yeah, great season from everyone. It's been really, really awesome. Shout out to all the guest drivers that showed up today to fill out the grid. Really appreciative of them joining us today. Big announcements. We are rebranding the league to Lights Out Racing. We'll be adding a Porsche Cup series, which will probably run Sundays, probably Sunday nights. And then another season of the sports cars with GT3s and GT4s again. Gonna roll out a website, revamp our Discord, do a bunch of other things. And in the meantime, we're looking to have a charity race sometime between now and the beginning of next year. Still trying to get all the details on that, but as soon as we have it, I'll share it with you guys, and you can put it out in your broadcasts.
Well, thank you very much, Rob. And in terms of this season, any final thoughts on that?
Just really pleased with how everything went. I think all the racing was really solid. We didn't really have any major incidents to speak of, I think, except for today, maybe. But otherwise, yeah, I think it was all really good racing. Unfortunately, the drivers not showing up toward the end of the season is unfortunate. But otherwise, yeah, I was really pleased with how it went. Obviously pleased with how my season went. Congrats to Pecco as well on his championship, and looking forward to the next one.
Hey, Rob. Adam Thompson here. Just wanted to let you know, next season, if we can get a producer to get this covered, I'm coming for you, buddy. I'm not going to let you win it as easy next season, I promise.
Sure, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yes, well, thank you very much for joining us, Rob, and look forward to seeing you next season.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for all the great work this season. I really appreciate it.
Well, that was Robert Schwenkler, the league owner and the driver who beat out Adam Thompson to the championship this year, and Paul Michalogic as well, of course, who actually gave a bit of a better run towards the end of the season. But anyway, Alex, I'll hand over to you to round out the broadcast.
I've got to, but before you round it out, of course, Paul gave him a better run because I couldn't even run, Tom. So thanks for the little slight, but I wanted to get one in on you. All right, now go ahead, Alex.
The statistics do not lie, Adam. There's no.
I really think I need to set up an impromptu boxing ring, just make a separate channel in the Discord that just says Upsetty Spaghetti Boxing Ring, and we'll go at it. We got several that can go at it. We got you and Tom, we got you and Rob, we got Bannock and Bobby. All right, everybody gets a turn. Everybody gets a turn of the boxing ring. I'll be the ref. But
was-
anyways, let's
I was
close
panicked.
this
I'd be
out.
more scared about Bobby's mom.
That's true. That's true. That's true. She'd probably beat anybody to a pile of ash. I would not want to fight Bobby's mom. But anyways, this has been Slow Motion Broadcasting's coverage of the Season 2 finale of the Cross Touring Cup. My name is Alex Andersen. I have been joined in the commentary booth by Tom Dillon with Adam Thompson in our virtual production truck. And from Le Mans for the finale of the Season 2 of the Cross Touring Cup, have a good night.